Okay. We'll just wait for some people to get in here, and hopefully we can get this started. The beginning of live streams is always like super awkward because you're just sitting there waiting. So I might come back through and edit this out after this, but we're going to be doing a little bit of a live Q&A type of duck calling tutorial, to where basically if you have any questions for me on duck calling, I can kind of help you figure out what's going on there. So basically, ask me some questions and I'll kind of help you get better at calling. I'm not a perfect caller myself, but I believe like I'm good enough at calling to, call in birds, and I want you guys to be able to do that too. So if you have any questions that you want me to talk about while going over some duck calls, leave it in the chat here. But yeah, hopefully my neighbors don't get too mad at me, because gonna be blowing some duck calls here for a little bit. Let's see. We got some questions here, I think. So when do you use different types of calls? Are you talking about like acrylic and like wood and all that stuff, or are you talking like a Hale call and a feeder call or something? But most of the time, it really doesn't matter. Like this call right here, I like this one for like doing greeting calls and that kind of stuff. But this double reed I like to use for feeder calling and finishing some ducks. Let me know how the audio is when I'm blowing this call. I hope that isn't too cringy. So what is the most reliable call for ducks? The sound. You can never go wrong with just doing a quack. Single quacks are killer, and I've used them so many times to just get on ducks and have them circle. You just give them quacks, nothing fancy. You just quack it now and then, and they come right in. Let her rip. Major call. So this is a double reed call, and I like to use this one for feeder calling just because it's a little softer and it's a little easier for me to get that feeder call, that chuckle, than like on a single reed. It's just a personal preference. You can do it on whatever, but a feeder call sounds something like this. And to do that, to get it to do that, like ticka ticka ticka, the feeder call sound, you're going to basically just be fluttering your tongue, going ticka 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 ticka. So you can either go ticka 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 ticka, or you can just go tick 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 tick. It's really nothing fancy, and it just takes a lot of practice. Whenever I was learning how to feeder call and do all that stuff, I was just driving and going ticka 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 ticka. Like even without a call, I just get my tongue used to moving fast, and that's one of the biggest things that I could tell you that would help you get to be able to do a fluttery feeder call is just get your tongue used to moving really fast. And me, that's really hard. But Luke is really good at doing a feeder call. Me, I'm mediocre at best. I'm pretty okay at it, but just takes a lot of practice, and I've got some practicing to do. Are there any more questions here on do you prefer soft calling or louder quacks and feeds? So it depends on the situation and what the ducks like. If the ducks like calling, I'm going to call to my heart's content and get those ducks to work, especially mallards. I just love watching mallards work and calling on the corners. And then that's my strategy. I like to call in the corners. I don't like to call a lot, but I like to call them on the corner. So I get their greeting call, get their attention, and they're circling, and they fly away, and they hit a point, and they hit that comeback call or another greeting call, and they turn, and you just keep them going. And then once they're ready to commit, I just either don't call at all, or I just single quacks and feeds and finish the ducks that way. But I generally like to call. I like to call ducks, so that's what I do. So for a comeback call, can you demonstrate it? Okay. Also, if you guys haven't checked out my playlist that is about duck calling and how to blow a duck call, check that out in case like I missed anything on this live stream. So a comeback call, it's basically going to be fast and loud when they're on the corners flying away from you, and you just want to get their attention and you want them to turn back, and you go wah, bah, 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 or something like that. Wait. That's a comeback call. I hope that wasn't too cringy audio, but you're basically just loud and fast and you dial it down. So there's that. And then this guy's asking me to demonstrate a Hale call, comeback call, but you're drawing it out so it's longer. and I really hope they don't get pissed at me for this. That was kind of crappy. It's I like to use it. I haven't been blowing duck calls a lot lately, so I could use some practice myself. But your hail call, ducks are far out. A lot. It's people like to say one of two things. They either love doing a hail call or they hate it because they say it doesn't sound like a duck. And I'm one of the people that loves to do a hail call, and I love getting the attention of the birds really far away and seeing them come in. But my philosophy is, and I've heard other people give me this philosophy too, is when you're doing the hail call, you're going to basically just go as loud as possible, because when the ducks are flying and they're farther away, they're only going to hear bits and pieces, and it doesn't matter if you sound ducky or not. You're just trying to get as many notes and sounds out there that sound kind of like a duck to get the attention. I really hope this live stream isn't too crappy. I'm on 4G right now because I know my Wi-Fi is terrible. Did the Kansas season just open its own? What kind of call do I use? I use a whole bunch. These two are custom calls that viewers sent in, and then this one is a single reed acrylic. Do I like zinc calls? Yeah. I mean, I haven't tried every call in the store. I just usually stick with what I've got. But I do like zinc. I had a PH2 for a while and I liked it. Let's see. I have not gone goose hunting yet because season is not open yet. Far away. Generally if they're too far away, I'm not even gonna call, because after you spend time in the field and you experience duck hunting and you've learned kind of through the process and doing stuff like that, you learn when the ducks are too far and when they're at the right distance to call. So, when they're at the right distance but they're still far away, I'll hit them with a hail call and then see if they do anything. And if they do stuff, then I'll get them with the greeting call and then I'll work them and then I'll finish them. So that's what I like to do when the ducks are far away. How do you call when they come in close? I think I covered this earlier, but what I like to do is when after they've done their back and forth and big circles and they're starting to really suck in, I like to just dial it down and do quacks and some feeder notes and try and finish them that. I try to lay off the calling as much as I can. Most of the time I'm just single quack, and then they come on in. Okay, what's the greeting call? The greeting call is basically your 5-note hen sound that the hen makes. So it's basically, I was always taught to do like 3 blind mice quack quack, and it's a descending cadence. You're going to start loud and then go softer. It'll sound like this. Let's see if I can do it right. I haven't called in ages. So it's just a series of quacks. You start loud and you dial it. And my calling tonight is really not that good. I haven't called in probably since teal season, actually. I want to get you guys' opinion on this. I've been trying to learn the Cajun squeal, and I've heard you guys talking about it a lot. And I've been trying I don't know why it keeps dropping it. This is kind of driving me nuts. But Cajun squeal, I need you guys to tell me if this sounds anything like the Cajun squeal. That's what I hope that audio on my phone isn't too bad. That's kind of, I think that's a Cajun squeal. I think I've got it kind of. I might be completely wrong. Okay, it sounds good. Cool. See, I can't do it on this call that well, but I can do it on the double reed and then the polycarb in my truck. Do you guys have any questions for me on calling while I'm on here? My phone's going to die here real quick, so I'm going to have to get off here. But do you guys have any questions for me on how to do calls? 1 call to commit birds. single quacks. You can hunt all day with just you will if you just call just single quacks all day long, and you should be good. You don't have to get super fancy with them. A lot of people like to think that you need to highball and do all this stuff, but if you just take it back to the basics, and I like to rely on the basics too, where I'm just I just single quacks every time. When should you be calling? I mean, nuts. It keeps dropping out after like 2 minutes. But how do you? What was the question? How do you? I don't even know where it went. What call do you use for a comeback? I use this single reed acrylic. Where did that question go? That was a good one. Difference between early season and late season calling. The difference is the amount of calling that you're going to do. In the early season, up until probably December for me, after like a month and a half of the season, the birds start to get a little bit call shy. But until that point, birds love calling and they'll work and do all this stuff. That's why I love kiting so much. Is when you call and they work and they do everything like they're supposed to. It's amazing. But early season, you can get away with a lot more calling than you can late season. In late season, you got to dial it back. Okay, feeder or Drake whistle when they're in close. I don't use the Drake whistle all that much. I just stick with single quacks and then some feeders, and I mostly just kind of let the decoys do the work. But sometimes we break out the Drake whistle. I don't know. It's just something I do. I just kind of let the decoys do the work. I don't put too much stress into it. More questions. What duck do you usually kill? Mallards, bro. You guys have any more questions on how to do some calls? Okay, do you only call mallards or do you call every kind? I mostly just call mallards because that's kind of the primary duck, but a lot of ducks just come into mallard calls. So that's kind of what I do. What about a couple goose calls? I don't have my goose call on me right now. The call that I use for geese is, I think it's a Buck Gardner Gander hammer. It's like $15. It's polycarb. It's a pretty decent call, but it is pretty quiet. But whatever. Caught him in an artery. Canada hammer. Yeah, I think that's it. That's what it's called. What do you say in the call for the feeder? So I went over this earlier, but you're basically going to be saying ticket, 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 ticket. And it's so frustrating to learn the feeder call. Like I spent probably 6 months trying to learn it, and it's hard. And the one thing I can tell you to do is just practice. Keep practicing, and you'll get better at it. But for a feeder call, you're basically going ticket, 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 or you're going ticket, 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 and you could also do dugga, 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 dugga. It's all personal preference on what like fits your body the best. But for me, it's ticket, 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 and you have to do like the rapid. You don't have to do that. You can just do like a pecking duck is what I like to refer to it as, where you're just one duck and you're just kind of moseying around doing this. And for that, you're just going tick, 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 tick. And that's just as effective as the rapid machine gun style. So once again, I'm not that great at a feeder call. It's something I wish I was good at, but I'm really not. Okay, how do you do the Cajun squeal like I did earlier? I don't feel like I'm in any position to be teaching you guys how to do this, but I just figured it out. It's one of those things where I was driving like 4 hours. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and figure this out. I watched a couple of YouTube videos on it, and I just wanted to figure it out and just see if I could do it. And so, let me do it real quick so I can listen. Put call kind of right here, and then cut it off with my teeth so I can let a little bit of air slip through after. So I'm going like a regular quack, or like your Hale Call. That's what it's called. So you're basically kind of, I like to think of it as like chewing on the call, basically, where you're letting it out like a normal quack, then it kind of dies down and you're letting the air kind of seep through. And it depends on the call. Some calls are easier to do it on, some are not, but I hope that's a Cajun squeal. I don't know if I'm right on that or not. Let's take a couple more questions and we'll be getting off of here. Double reed or single reed? That is up to you. Double reeds are a little raspier. You can get those feeder notes a little easier. This is a double reed. It's a little bit easier. It takes a little less air. And then a single reed is going to be louder. And they both have their own place. It's kind of hard to describe. You just got to have one of each and play with it and see which one you prefer. I started on a double reed. I thought it was easier to learn how to call. So if you're trying to learn how to call, go ahead and grab a double reed. But the single reed for me, I can hit different notes with it, and it's a little bit easier to, I don't know. It's hard to describe. I prefer the double reed for the lower raspy feeder notes. I prefer the single reed for longer distance, like Hale Call and stuff. Okay, let's get one more question here, and then we'll get off. Any questions here for calling tips? Okay, best way to reduce sticking. I always forget about this problem because it's warm now, but later on in the season, you're going to get spit in your call when you're calling, and it's going to freeze up. And I think the best thing to do in that situation to kind of fix that problem right away is sometimes like it freezes up and you go to blow and you're like, it doesn't vibrate. So the best thing you can do is just start out with just kind of give it a couple ticks in there, and that'll loosen it up, and then you should be able to call right away. If that doesn't work, try and hit the spit out of it or blow out the end, and that usually helps a little bit too, because sometimes you can't get it, so you need to blow on the other end and give it a few taps, and you should be good to go. So that's all we got here. Leave me a thumbs up on this video if you want me to do another kind of live stream duck calling tutorial kind of thing. I want to be able to help you guys out, so leave a thumbs up on that and subscribe if you haven't already. Pretty sure that's pretty cool to do. It means a lot when you guys do that. But that's all I got. Follow me on my social media: Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. That's all I got. I'll be back on Wednesday, hopefully for a waterfowl Wednesday. I'll see you then.